Hey everybody, it's been a long time. Welcome back to Gigless.
Welcome to the Gigless Podcast, a podcast showcasing the works and talents of those who lost their gigs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This podcast will feature a range of creators from the Tri-State area who are young visionaries and who contribute to their craft despite the recent events that have happened. Join us today as our host Remi Leibovic speaks with Austin Catino. Austin's unique eye for photography has captured living through COVID-19 and familial ties, as well as showcasing his work during quarantine. You can learn more about Austin and his other projects in the show notes of this episode. Enjoy.
Today we are joined by local South Jersey photographer and Philadelphia photographer, Austin Catino. Hi, Austin.
Hi, Remi. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, and I am your host, Remi Leibovic. So, Austin, how has this pandemic quarantine been for you?
It's personally, I'm a person that likes to I spend a lot of time at home and in my studio, so I'm kind of like an introvert in those regards. So it hasn't affected me that much besides not being able to see my work in person. And I missed one. I was really looking forward to I had an opening on March 12th at Philadelphia Photo Arts Center, and I was really looking forward to meeting the other artists and stuff. I wasn't able to go because that's when the start of COVID or like the middle of it started happening.
Yeah, I remember I wanted to go to that show.
Yeah,
And then
I was really disappointed about it because like so many Rutgers people were planning on going, like faculty and some of my professors and some Antonelli people and just friends in the area. I felt really bummed that I felt like I let them down because it was last minute and canceled and stuff.
it's not your fault.
I know, but it still was tough. Yeah.
Absolutely. What was, for our listeners that are tuning in, what was that show about? And could you describe some of the pieces that you put in there?
All right. So it was the 10-year teen photo anniversary for Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. It's the program's been in existence for 10 years. I was the second class, so I'm one of the older student. Well, I was one of the oldest alumni. I started at the teen photo program in 2011, and I had my exhibit there in 2012. And this was the 10-year anniversary. Well, not of me, but of the whole program. So I was able to put more work in. And just see and meet other alumni from 2010 until current. So I was really excited just to meet new people and talk photos. So the work in my exhibit was kind of like my response to a traumatic episode I had, which I won't go into detail in here. I'm going to have an artist talk about it at Philadelphia Photo Arts Center on August 26th, I think. So I'll go into detail there about it. But it's really personal, and I was real I was really looking forward to getting feedback from my about the work. And so far, like I talked to one of the people that works at PPAC. So far, like 8 people have gone to see the exhibit post COVID. So, but I'm still happy to be in the show.
Absolutely. I think that there is, especially with photography, when photos are printed, you can actually like stand in the presence of them, not like look down at a screen at them. It's a completely different experience. And I definitely will put the link to that speaker on August 26th in your show notes so that people can make a note.
Yeah, because it will be my first besides this podcast, first artist talk, and I'm actually really nervous about it, but I think I have to get used to it if I want to do any more, if I want to go to grad school or anything. But I'm excited to do it. I'm nervous but excited.
Absolutely. So Another thing that I wanna ask you is, what are some of the projects that have come out during this great time of pause?
So the first, I have two projects that have come out of this. Two new projects, and I've been working on some other stuff. Um, First project was actually both of them were. They were both projects from my photo class I was taking at Rutgers. The first one was kind of obvious: document your life during quarantine. And both projects are up on my website, paintandgrain.com, which you can put a link to that. So the first project documenting my family was called Time of Our Lives, and I live with my parents and my younger brother, and I photographed them like a couple times a week, just doing things that were mundane but still kind of like events. Like my dad was my favorite photo from the series is my dad. He was shooting at a bird. There's a bird on a roof, messing with our chimney, and he was shooting close to it to just try to scare it off. I got a really cool photo of him pointing the gun at the camera. It was a BB gun.
Yeah.
And
I saw that photo and I thought that was so interesting.
it's just like so bizarre and funny, I think.
Yeah, one of my, I guess, just this very unique experience that I had when I was a teenager was my friends all had BB guns. I
Mhm.
was the only one that didn't have a BB gun.
Uh,
And like obviously like this was a group of a bunch of guys
yeah.
and they all had BB guns and they had so many BB guns that they had enough to spare. So
Oh,
what we did was we lined up cans behind one of the guys' apartment houses,
hmm.
and we just shot like all day. And it was just like, is he doing like, that with the cans? Or are they
Hmm.
having like a backyard kind of shootout thing?
Oh
Because
yeah,
that was like, it just brought me back to one of those
that's
like
awesome.
teenage memories.
That's what I love it when my work like means something completely different to someone else or invokes like emotion. That's like the goal of being an artist, I think, or one of the goals.
Absolutely. And, um, you know, so like, how have you adapted to the new way of working? Like, how has your work shifted if you aren't able to necessarily like go out and gather?
So I feel like I've switched from taking portraits because that's besides portraits of my family. I really stopped taking portraits of other people, and I've started focusing more on some studio photography, which I'm familiar with, but I never really liked doing. And this leads into the second body of work that came out of quarantine, which was the clouds photographs, which started as a project at Rutgers as well, which I did remotely, of course. Where I printed a photo I got off of like one of those stock websites for free of clouds, and I used it. I printed it. I blew it up on like a 13 by 19 piece of paper. And I used it as a background for I would take photos of flowers and still life and other objects, and I photographed them with this cloud background and on black and white film, and this had this really nice look. And I started just messing with it more and more, and just it started like it got into like I wanted to pursue that body of work, especially when my one of my good friends Cameron said I should take a photo of cotton because and this was before the protests and everything, but it was a cool experience, and I wrote that's probably my favorite piece in the show in the portfolio.
Yeah, and your sunflower piece is like one thing that I
Yeah,
really love.
thank you. I was with that that's definitely a more refined photo from a development standard because I was messing with developers and because I shoot traditional film, and I think I really nailed the developing process with that photo, and which is awesome for because I recorded it so I know how to do it for the next thing I photograph.
Have you been at a lack of have you had a lack of resources to making your photography, or do you pretty much have like a at home setup?
I have well, I'm really fortunate. I have everything I need at home. In terms of lighting and like lighting and camera equipment and stuff like that. Where it's really hurt is the expense of film and paper and ink, because like I don't really print that much. I print for shows, but I don't like printing and just leaving prints hanging around my house because it's expensive to print, and if there's no end goal for the print, there's no reason to just waste paper. Um, but yeah, the pack of Kodak Tri-X is like $40 now for 5 rolls of film, but it's worth it because the look I get is just I love it. So yeah, but I am thinking
Absolutely.
about selling some of my prints soon to like fund making more work.
So I think you know what the question that I'm going to ask next is. So you were recently in a very big magazine and you were featured,
It's actually
and
a coffee table book which was produced by this magazine, which is even cooler, I think.
that's even so. Tell our audience about this incredible thing that just happened like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so I was a friend told me about a for art on Instagram from V Magazine, which is a fashion magazine. It's one of the smaller ones, but still a big deal. And it was V Magazine, and then Gigi Hadid was who's a fashion a, a famous model and fashion icon. She was the guest editor for this magazine. I applied through a hashtag on Instagram, which I thought was like they were never going to see my work because it's based off of like analytics and stuff, and I didn't have that many followers. Still don't compared to some of these other artists who had like tens of thousands of followers. But Gigi Hadid actually saw my work, and she said it was very strong, and she loved a lot of like the protest photos I took a couple years ago. And it was just an awesome experience interacting with her and the V Magazine team, and um, so and my photo, which is called "Portrait of an American Family," which I took in my living room with my parents and my brother. They thought it was me at first because they've never met me, so that was kind of funny. Um, it ended up being printed in this book, and it was a really cool experience.
Do you
And
have the book with you?
yeah, I can show you. Well, I mean, the viewers can't see it, but
But we can. I'll describe it. I'll describe it for them. Like, this is incredible that you were able to be printed.
mm-hmm. It glows in the dark too. Oh, well, it's back.
All right. So it's
Yeah,
the movement is calling to hashtag defund the police, hashtag Black Lives Matter, and then it's a bunch of cartoony hands in red, white, and blue, and also some brown hands overlapping and holding. There's the hashtags, there's some eyeballs that are all looking at it. And yeah, it's it's the cover,
the back cover. Yeah, the
the
front
back cover.
this is we can't really see on here. This glows in the dark.
What does it look like? Because I'm just seeing white. What is
Yeah,
it?
it's it says the GG Journal, and there's like an hourglass, which
Ah,
which reminds me of the Watchmen. I don't think that was their intent, but that's all when I think of a glass. Not an hourglass, a clock face.
okay.
So I'll show you my page. Oh, and I got a letter. I forgot. I got a personal letter signed by Gigi.
What does it say?
Okay, I'll
If
read
you
it.
want to read it.
We would like to express our gratitude to you for your beautiful contribution to the Gigi Journal Part 2. With this project, V set out to not only encapsulate our current moment, but also help initiate change. Today, as we flip through the pages of the Gigi Journal Part 2, composed by a diverse group of artists and activists, your voices shine even brighter than we could ever imagine. I think that's why it glows in the dark.
Yeah,
Thank you for helping to bring Gigi Journal Part 2 to life, and congratulations. Many thanks, Gigi Hadid and Stephen Gaunt, who's the editor. And they
that's
both signed it. It's so cool. That's
that's
a laminated.
awesome.
Yeah. So I'll bring you to my page.
And for our listeners, it's a thin book. It's not thick, but it's a very like thin book, if you ever had those Olivia books as a child, that's about the thinness of it.
Yeah, I think there were 35 or something artists. So there's which is crazy because I think a couple thousand people applied. So
Through hashtags.
yeah, and they found my work and they really liked it.
I'm just gonna shout out to anyone who's never worked with like a photographer. He is never going to be on his Instagram. Photos of him or her will never be on their Instagram.
Oh yeah, and this is over.
That's just so. What does the writing on the left say?
Oh, that's like in the art, not an artist statement, but it's like about the artist.
Okay.
Yeah, and
It's
it's like
about
my
you.
inspiration for the photo and like some questions like what my favorite song was or favorite song is. I said song. I just chose like some random Islamic Youth song, but you can't go wrong with Islamic Youth.
Yeah.
And just like questions like Q&A stuff. So if you get the book, you'll be able to find out more about me. What my favorite Sonic Youth song.
That's right. The photo is so great in that printed format. I think that that's like so striking to turn a page and then see that.
I was inspired by there's a famous Richard Avedon who shot a lot of contrasty black and white on white backgrounds. There's a famous photo he took of Martin Luther King, his son, Martin Luther King's son, and his Martin Luther King's father, and they're positioned in the same space, the same way, not the same way, like the same, I guess, kind of like the triangle pattern. But that's a big inspiration for me for photographing my family, and
Yeah.
and it's funny because I saw that photo around because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to photograph for this book. So you're only given a week to do it, which is not. I mean, it's a lot of time. It's a good amount of time for me, but it was still stressful. And so I was just researching photos, and Avedon's a big influence of mine. And I saw that photo. I'm like, I should recreate this, but put my own spin on it.
Right. So this would definitely count as something like a gig that you've done during the quarantine.
Oh yeah.
Have you done any like other things?
Well, I've been applying to not residencies like art related I'm trying to think like grants and stuff, but I just haven't heard back from any of them yet.
Yeah.
I think the next biggest thing I'm looking forward to is I applied at there's a call for art at the Print Center in in Philadelphia, which is a very big deal. If I get anything in, because like you could get a purchase award from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. You have your own solar exhibit at the Print Center. There's a lot of stuff you can possibly get if the judges like your work. And I'll hear back on September 11th about that. And,
Ooh.
I don't know. I'm really like excited just to because if I don't get anything, at the very least, I have the judge look at my work who's really big in the photo community. He's a pretty big foreign guy for his name, of course. But
It's okay. I think that definitely to keep up the effort and to try and try again
oh yeah,
is very important, and um I think that's very important for artists to keep trying and keep going at things, especially when there's so many at this point there's so many publications, there's so many indie productions. There's just so much out there that you can just apply and get your name on and add it to a portfolio that, like, if you don't get into one thing, maybe something else will take it.
oh
And I
yeah.
think that's a really big positive.
And like I seriously didn't think I was gonna get chosen to be in the GG Journal, and I was like, it's a hashtag. I just put it on my photo. Like, what the heck? And something awesome happened.
Yeah, and something awesome did happen. I think that, like I said, I think that there's there's definitely something to say about um photography when it comes to the online space or like the Instagram space. I feel like
Yes.
Instagram is a way for photographers to like demonstrate their artwork,
Hmm.
but I feel like the real craft and technique goes beyond
Oh
that
yeah.
platform.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be as successful without Instagram. Just mainly because I have so many other people looking at my work, and I've met a lot of cool people I would have never met on Instagram. But like,
Yeah. And so like so before the GG journal and right now,
mhm.
do you have like a daily routine or a day job that you do, or do you assign yourself tasks? Like,
Okay.
what's your mentality as a creative?
I've been focusing a lot on exercise. Um, I like to wake up really super early, like for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like I wake up at like 6 in the morning and I work out for an hour. I started getting into running too, which is I always feel like I'm gonna fall over and die, but it's a great like I love the runner's high. And I do
Bless
that.
you.
Hmm. It's scary, but it's a great feeling. Um, I do that. I haven't I've been just I'm still a student at Rutgers, and I haven't been working. I don't have any job right now, but I've been focusing on my art. Um, trying to take. I'm still working on like the cloud photos and doing the still life stuff from time to time, not as frequently, but when I'm not like working, making art, I do a lot of research and looking at photos and reading photos and interviews with photographers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that keeps you inspired.
Yes, yeah.
That's, I think that inspiration can come from anywhere at this point.
Hmm.
And I think as artists, like just to keep, like I've been going offline and more into the books that I had purchased
Okay.
over the years of art school. I've
Okay.
been reading more of those. I've been going more from like digital to print in that sense.
Thing I've been really into is cinema. I love watching like really good movies. Like I wish I could afford the Criterion channel on streaming because that's awesome. I love watching Criterion collection movies. And I've also been really getting into like Korean films. Like yeah, like Old Boy, Parasite obviously is the big one. That was a great film, by the way. If
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho is watching this. Um and yeah, I think that's my biggest inspiration is film and cinema and music too.
What's some of your favorite films that you watched during
Um,
uh the quarantine?
I did see Parasite like last week for the first time. I was really late, but it was great. It's another movie that I might have to get back to you on that because I've seen a lot of movies and you put me on the spot.
It's okay.
But the other
I
thing I've been doing too is looking a lot at my old work, like from because I've been taking photos for at least 10 years,
Wow.
and so I've been looking at like stuff from high school and Antonelli Institute and just old film shots I've taken that I used to really love, but now I can't stand. So I think that helps too.
So have you been returning to your roots?
I think in a way, I think I've never really changed. Um, I mean, like, 'cause there's a couple like, there's a shot I took a self portrait of myself when I was in high school, when I'm in the middle of the frame, like, and that's something if anyone's familiar with my work, that's something I'm obsessed about. I love putting things in the middle of my frame. I don't know really why. I think it's just easier to read, and it's like
And
it's breaking
it's
the
more
rules.
like, how is it breaking the rules?
It's not well, they're not. A lot of people that shoot, it's always the rule of third is like the learnings. The first thing you learn is the rules of third. Put your subject in 1/3 of the frame. And I like doing the opposite. It's like this is the subject. Here you go.
Well, it's beautiful work, you know? Your family's definitely the rule of thirds. 1, 2, 3, 3
That's
people.
the rule of threes.
There you go. Rule of
That's a little,
threes.
that's something I didn't know there's a difference, but that's the reason I'm not in the photo. One of the reasons. It's because well, it would be hard to take, but three subjects is better than four.
Really? Could you explain that to our
I shouldn't say it's
non-photographer people?
it just I was thinking if it's easier to guide this viewer through the frame with three subjects because you just look at 1, 2, and 3, and then and how they're positioned in the photo. It's more of like a triangle shape, so it's just one shape. And I feel like with four, there would be too much going on, and then plus me and my brother look very much the same. We're not twins, but he's 3 years younger than me, but we look like
Mhm.
twins, which is very annoying when strangers ask if we're twins. But anyway, so I didn't want to get any confusion with that. But the main thing was the compositionally. I think the triangle shape was perfect.
Right. And so earlier you were talking about how the price in film and the price in some of the materials that you like to work with has gone up.
Mhm.
So I know that right now, because of the pandemic, stores were closed and then supply chains were affected, and then stores reopened, but the supply chains were still bad. So it's currently August. How have you how has your material been affected by all of this?
Luckily, the stores I order from have they've kept their shipping capabilities like the same. That really hasn't changed for me. But I've been stockpiling chemicals because like I said previously, I'm a film photographer and I develop my own film in house, which is awesome because I get total control. And these chemicals aren't that expensive. They're like $10 to $15 for a liter of like developer or something. I've been like low key hoarding it in case I can't get it in the future because it stores very well and I want to be able to develop my film as long as I can. But
Right.
yeah, the annoying thing is the cost of film is too expensive. But I haven't been stockpiling that, but I might save up some money so I can buy like a couple pro packs of it.
Right. I heard recently that Kodak wants to become a pharmaceutical company, or that they're
Yeah.
pivoting. I know that there's this great series on Netflix called Abstract,
Oh,
and
with
in
we're
the
talking about Platon.
yeah, the episode with, yes, there's one with Platon, and then there's also one with the developer of Instagram, like the graphic designer, the user experience designer behind Instagram.
Okay.
And in that episode, they said that when Instagram became a thing, they were the first company to like beat out Kodak.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I believe it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're
Well,
definitely gonna fact check this, and if I'm wrong, we're gonna take it out.
okay.
But um,
Well, they're not
it
the first company to beat out Kodak. That's why.
Oh, well, I mean, like, the stock it was, like, the first, like, I think, digital, like, true digital,
Oh, I see.
platform,
Mhm.
because it went from, "Oh, like, you can take photos on a digital camera," to, "Oh, you could take photos on your smartphone."
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So what do you think about that pivot?
From from film to digital, or
Well, yeah, what do you think about film to digital as an artist?
film's becoming very popular again. Like especially with like Instagram photographers and stuff like that. I kind of I'm happy that there's so many people shooting film, but at the same time, I think it's kind of annoying. It's like, oh, Kodak Portra 400, you gotta shoot that if you want to take good photos and stuff like that. And just like influencers and just like I like to have a reason to why I'm shooting film, not just as a trend or whatever. And it makes the price of cameras goes up, the film cameras, because so many people are buying them now, which is a pain. But
Yeah. And do you mean, for our listeners that are hearing in, you're talking not just Polaroid, but you're talking like actual
Oh,
film
film
cameras?
as in like with an acetate based, like black and white film or C41 color film, not Polaroid film or
Right.
instant film, but film you can make prints out of, multiple prints. I'll say that.
How common are black rooms, red rooms?
Dark rooms.
There you go. The room where it's all dark
And
and
red.
red.
Yeah. There's not like if you have a bathroom without windows, you can have one in your bathroom. That's the thing. There used to be a lot of community dark rooms. There was one at Rutgers, that's where I got my enlarger, or my professor gave it to me, and he didn't tell anyone, which he wasn't supposed to. But
It's okay. There's no snitches on the
no one's
Gigless
missing it. No one's
podcast.
missing it though. Um, yeah, dark rooms. There was a community dark room in Philly, but that closed a couple years ago. I honestly
Really?
like.
Why?
Yeah, it was mismanaged, I believe. My friend worked there. He didn't like the owner. I don't know. I never really liked printing in the dark room, even though I printed my photos for the 10 years exhibit traditionally for some reason. But like I'm I'm fine developing my film myself, which you can do in the daylight. You don't need a facility to do that, and then just scanning it in and printing it with an inkjet printer. Because I love the look of that, and it's more. Because the thing with darkroom prints is every time it's a little bit different. The developer might be mixed somewhat differently, or like there might be a hair on the print, and then just like leave a mark or whatever. So I like total control, so that's why I don't really like printing in the darkroom.
Right. Well, we're getting into the last 5 minutes of the podcast. Do you have any final thoughts?
I I don't think so. I enjoyed being on and just talking about photography. So thank you for that.
Of course. I'm sorry that my verbiage isn't like up to par
Oh,
with photography, even though I'm dating a photographer.
that's okay.
It's terrible.
That's okay. I think it's annoying just throwing out words. I don't know, but yeah.
I have a few art photography books. I know that. I see my Humans of New York one, like
Oh
the
yeah.
original.
Hmm.
I have that one, and then my others are somewhere.
I have to get some more.
Yeah, I definitely need to buy up more like photography books. I think the photography books are beautiful. It's just that like
It's his own art form, honestly.
it's just after seeing you go through thesis and what it takes to make a photography book, like I have such respect
Oh yeah,
for it.
definitely. It's like I said, it's like the having an album as like a musician. That's like the old, or like a film as a director. It's the ultimate goal to aspire for as a photographer. Besides like a
Yeah,
gallery, maybe.
why not both?
Yeah.
So, what is the organization that you mentioned at the beginning at Crane Arts?
Yes. That is Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. That's where I got my start in photography. They do a lot of youth outreach, and they have a teen photo program, that's where I started. When they take youth in the Philadelphia and South Jersey area, and they loan them a camera, and then they teach them photography skill, which is just awesome.
Yes, and folks, I've been to them. Like I've been to that gallery before COVID, and let me just say, kids are definitely perspective and sentient and conscious of the world around them. And some of the photography that they took, like some of the photos they took, was just like they're really tuned in.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of their work's better than mine, honestly. Well,
Aw.
and like they're just like like it blows me away. It's awesome, and this is like a free after school program too.
Do you mentor them?
Not I haven't had the opportunity to. I did TA bookmaking class, which is kind of funny.
That we learned at Rutgers. But yeah, guys. So again, this has been Austin Catino. on this episode of Gigless, and we will be putting all the links that he mentioned on our show notes page, so you'll be able to follow him on Instagram at Austin Catino, right?
Awesomely Austin.
Awesomely Austin. That's right. And then his website is
Pain, P-A-I-N, painandgrain.com. It's a reference to the struggles of learning film photography.
No Pain Without Grain.
Yes.
No grain without pain. I like that. No grain without pain. Well, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Gigless. We hope to see you guys back for our next one.
Thank you for listening to the Gigless podcast, hosted by Remi Leibovic and produced by Dane Wagner. The song used for our intro and outro is Beach Walk by Unicorn Heads. If you enjoyed this podcast, head over to our social media pages on Instagram at Gigless Podcast and our website, giglesspodcastblog.wordpress.com. There, you can find out more about the artist, contact the hosts and producers, and find out more about our schedule. Thank you.